Hello, Leah.
Hello, Dia.
It's back to school time. Things are busy, right?
Yeah, it feels like summer vacation just flew by.
Do we even have a vacation?
It goes by so quickly. One moment is the end of the semester and you're on vacation, and then suddenly it's back to school again.
By the way, why are we here chatting today?
In honor of our 1 year anniversary, we are here to
Yay.
celebrate.
That's right.
Today, we'll be discussing something new. Although we primarily focus on English writing, we'll also be talking about learning English as a foreign language. We'll freely discuss the different methods each of us has used to study English, so you'll have something practical to listen and apply.
Especially these days, there's a lot of free content available for those who are learning English on their own or receiving education in Korea. That's why we are here today. So let's talk about how we learned as kids.
So how far should we go?
Leah, when were you first exposed to English?
I didn't start learning regular curriculum English until my first year of middle school. Before that, I didn't know much beyond the alphabet in English.
I've been there too, despite the generational gap.
Some of you might be thinking, what? We learn English in the first grade?
That's what a lot of people my age did, starting in the first grade of middle school. But I was a bit behind because my friends were already ahead in their learning journey. However, I entered middle school only knowing alphabet.
Yes, and the textbooks at that time were quite different. The sentences were like, I'm a boy.
Yes, so when you first started middle school, you were basically starting from scratch with just the alphabet.
During the time, I had a crush on my English teacher and wanted him to like me, so I paid close attention in class, which is different from my approach in other subjects. I took thorough notes and sat at the front of the class because I was short. The teacher noticed my hard work, and once I held up the textbook of mine and saying, hey, everyone do it like this. You know what they say, praise makes a whale dance. That feedback fueled my excitement, and I took even more diligent notes.
That's what made you focus on learning English?
Yeah, now that I got interested in English, I've been listening to a lot of songs that were popular when I was in middle school, like Christina Aguilera.
Yeah, I used to love her.
And another thing, I got a bit greedy and asked my mom if I could have some of the paid English content.
Yeah.
At that time, many companies were selling English learning content, including DVDs and other materials. I managed to convince my mom to buy Teen Times, which was an English newspaper for teens particularly. It was a colorful B4 size newspaper with short articles. However, at that time, I could only understand a little bit because I was still learning from textbooks. There was an interview section with celebrities, and it had a conversational tone. So I would pretend to be the interviewer and act it out on my own. I remember practicing like that.
Oh, that's proactive.
How about you, Dia? What was your experience like during elementary and high school?
Well, when I entered middle school, I only knew the ABCs. My teacher at that time, who we nicknamed Penguin, was very interesting. She wasn't the reason of my English study. Instead, it was a fresh experience for me to learn a new language. And I was a bit surprised by how different English writing was. I was fascinated by it, so I kept looking at it. We didn't have various textbooks at my time of school, but I read all of them from cover to cover because I found them interesting. After finishing, I would listen to cassette tapes. I'm pretty old, right? And follow along by reading.
I see.
Back then, the idea of pronouncing another language was so exciting to me that I recorded myself and memorized the textbook word for word. I didn't even fully understand the meaning of it. I just memorized it and would murmur it to myself. My teacher noticed and encouraged me to participate in an English-speaking contest. So without fully understanding the words, I memorized the whole thing and ended up winning a prize.
Wow.
It seems like, as Leah mentioned earlier, praise truly motivates the learner.
Yeah. Without that, it's hard to know if you're making any progress.
Yes, so there was some synergy between us in that aspect. We both studied because of the praise.
That's right, we have something in common.
And that's how I learned. And for those who don't receive much praise, sometimes you have to give yourself compliments, don't you think?
Exactly. Sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader. But because English is a foreign language, eventually you have to use it for communication, whether it's in writing or speaking. So it's important to break through the barriers and create opportunities for feedback, whether positive or negative.
It can be challenging. Nowadays, MBTI is quite popular, right? I am primarily introverted, which is an I person. But because I'm a socialized I person, I don't have any problems when I'm teaching or living in general. When I went abroad for the first time and spoke English, I reverted to my original personality. It went back to I, and I didn't say anything, so speaking skill didn't grow. I mean, like Leah was talking about earlier, I needed to crack some eggs, but I was too scared to crack them, so I didn't say anything. I even went to grad school and didn't say anything in class. And then a semester later, I said something, and a colleague of mine said, I thought you were mute, because I didn't say anything like that. This is why my speaking skills didn't really grow in my grad school years.
That's right.
Leah said there's got to be something else, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm an I too, but I'm kind of the opposite. I'm an introvert, but under certain circumstances, I can be an E, extroverted person. So when I went abroad in the first place, I mean, I went on my parents' dime, so it was a waste of money if I didn't make use of everything I can. So then I realized that I couldn't allow myself to go and hang out with Korean people there. I'm out here, so I'm only going to speak English. I'm not going to hang out with Korean people. So I consciously stayed away from Koreans, and if a Korean approached me, I would speak to them in English only. So even if a Korean person talked to me in English, I would continue speaking in English. So it's quite ironic because I'm Korean, but I stayed there like this. I actually received a typical education in Korea until my second year of college, and then I went abroad. During my time there, all the knowledge I had accumulated until then was presented in English during college classes and other activities. I just memorized it all for the speaking test and successfully passed. But because I memorized it, I didn't notice the real competence of my English. Now I know I'm good at it because I memorized everything, but in the end, I couldn't speak spontaneously. So since I did a lot of reading and such, I became very interested in it when I spoke. I listened to other people's expressions intensively and thought I should use that. So when I speak, I try to reflect it straight away, which helps me communicate with foreigners. And it's exciting, so I keep talking. So it's a personality that I never thought I would get along with foreigners. But when I'm out and about, I become very proactive.
You're not like me. You're the complete opposite.
I was unlike Dia's case, where I went in with a limited amount of time and tried to do everything in that time period.
So you'd managed to make it happen.
Yeah, I think I gave it my all because I had that commitment.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I was abroad, I was an immigrant. I went with a mindset that I would have to live under pressure because I had immigrated. So I expected a long time to study the language. I didn't speak much because I was passive in my studies. My speech didn't improve much enough. I got confident while studying school. After graduating from graduate school, I actually got a job at a local university. At work, I was the only Korean and everyone else was either local or from other countries. I had to survive as a salaried employee. You know, at work, you join a meeting and you have to talk. I was one of those people who was really passive, so I would go into situations where I had no choice but to speak. And I would speak because somebody told me to, or I had to be in the meeting and I would speak. So I'm guessing those struggles made my speaking skills better. You know, there's usually a pivotal period when you are around 9 or 10 years old in foreign language learning.
Yeah, if you go abroad at a young age, you observe the language like a sponge.
Yes, but we are sure you can become a competent speaker without going that far like what Leah and I did. And Leah was able to achieve in a very limited amount of time with a lot of enthusiasm. In my case, I used to be very passive and would only speak when I had no choice, like in meetings or when somebody told me to speak. Within a year, I found myself in a situation where I couldn't help but speak. However, looking back, I realized I spoke the least English on Monday mornings because I would spend the weekend speaking Korean with my family. It's like a reset because as an adult, no matter how good you think your English is, it's not something you can acquire as a baby like your first language. So I tended to forget and felt at my worst on Monday mornings, but then I gradually improved throughout the week. By Friday afternoon, I was flying like with confidence.
Yeah, that's right. You're exuding confidence.
Yes. That's when I was in my mid to late 20s. Even if you are not nearly native level by that age, it's not about being native-like, honestly. It's about being a competent communicator, right? I can definitely say that it's because of the experience that Leah and I had there.
Well, we know some people might be like, no, they're good because they have lived there.
Yes, right. I was also thinking, oh, I'm Korean, so I'm still going to have a Korean accent because you're always questioning yourself. But here's another piece of my experience. When I was writing my master's thesis, I went to the college writing center thinking there'd be a lot of corrections. By the way, as you know, Leah, every school has a writing center and tutors are there to correct your writings and give you feedback, right?
Yes, that's right.
Anyway, the tutor said there was barely anything to fix. And at first, I couldn't believe it and even asked him to check again. He insisted it was mostly fine. Sure, there might have been minor mistakes, but that experience really made me realize that my English was better than I thought. There was a time my confidence really boosted.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and here's another. Whenever I travel or walk abroad, I often get mistaken not as Korean, but as Hawaiian. Now you might wonder, why Hawaiian? Especially considering the number of Koreans in places like the United States. Here's the fun part. When I ask people why they thought I was Hawaiian, they say it's because of my accent. They believe it closely resembles the Hawaiian English accent.
Oh, interesting.
Apparently, the influence of the island nation I lived in gave my English a Pacific Islander touch, similar to that of Hawaii. So rather than the typical, are you Japanese, Chinese, or Korean question, I'm greeted with, did you study in Hawaii? This unique misconception makes me realize the intriguing assumptions people make based on my accents and further boost my confidence in my English speaking abilities. Of course, it may a little less now, but
That often happens if you live in Korea for a long time.
yeah, that's right. Yes, now that I've come back to live in Korea. Anyway, I realized that praise has a powerful effect on people. I felt I was radiating confidence.
Yeah, internal confidence is crucial, but external affirmation can really enforce it. Like hearing praise just boosts your confidence even more.
I agree. I've had moments when teachers or native speakers gave me positive feedback. I used to doubt my English skills during my time in grade school. A particular incident changed that.
Oh, what was it?
As I said earlier, I was quite reserved and didn't speak much. I initially didn't plan on pursuing that major, but I was so influenced by a professor that I switched my major. I attended one of her classes even before she became my advisor, and she said something really impactful. She mentioned that as an international student who got into grad school without needing any foundational courses, it's a testament to my capabilities in the study. She reassured me that as long as I could do, my reading, writing, and speaking would naturally follow. And one day, I spoke nonstop for 3 hours. Afterwards, I had such a headache. You know, those dissolvable Tylenol pills?
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't available in Korea back then. but that's what my advisor gave me. She added, speaking another language for hours on end is bound to give you a headache. She told me it's normal to feel that way after talking for long. That comment really boosted my confidence again. It made me step out of my self-doubt. That's when I truly understand the impact a teacher can have.
Absolutely. We can easily find a lot of Korean students intimidated by English itself as a challenge that can shake their confidence.
Exactly.
But sometimes trying to be perfect can hold back our learning. We have to accept that we might not be great at something initially. I mean, we're not native English speakers. Most Americans don't speak Korean, but here we are giving it our best shot.
Exactly.
Yeah, learners should take pride in that effort.
And you know, many native English teachers have told me that Korean students excel at grammar and structure. They are fantastic. But when it comes to speaking, there is this anxiety.
You're right.
English at its heart is about rhythm and intonation. It's more about feeling the language and understanding its nuances rather than just its structure, right?
Couldn't agree more.
We seem so stuck with this format. The speaking test for the English exam in Korea follows such a rigid structure too, but I guess we have to understand why, given it's an exam.
True. Tests have a set structure and there's always an evaluation criteria.
Exactly. During real conversations or English interviews, native speakers often say, we don't dwell on grammar, it's the content that counts.
It's always about what you are saying, the core message.
Exactly. It's the essence of what you're saying that matters, not just how you structure it. I've heard this from business interviewers and global recruiters. It's all about your word choice and how articulate you are. So the sophistication of your language is revealed through the advanced words you use.
I've noticed that from our discussions, like how you mentioned making a big impact professionally. When I reflect, most times I felt this was when I was problem solving. In those moments, the focus isn't on the language, but on finding a solution.
Absolutely.
I felt obligated to step in. You know, I've always been a bit reserved, but my experiences abroad have changed me. There was this Korean girl I recently met, and she had a terrible homesick experience and needed to relocate. So she was new there and didn't know anyone. So her homestay mom, knowing we are both Korean, approached me for help. So I called her school and explained the unfair situation with her current homestay, and I requested a move, and they did it.
That's just so you, isn't it?
You'd think, but the funny thing is, I hardly knew her then. Fast forward, and now she's one of my closest friends. It's just in my nature to solve problems, I guess.
Exactly, that's what I meant.
To really get something, you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone. It circles back to what you mentioned earlier about conveying a message. Students often have a lot they want to share, but they hold back due to uncertainty.
Absolutely. In my classes, I notice students hesitating to voice their opinions because they lack the foundational ideas. For instance, our topic this week is things to do before 30, and the vocabulary revolves around extreme sports. As you know, not many in Korea are into such niche outdoor activities. So when I asked if anybody had tried them, unsurprisingly, none had. When questioned about their interest in trying, there was just silence. It seemed they'd never even considered it before.
Exactly.
It's like if they can't relate or don't have any experiences to draw from, they're left with nothing to share.
Yeah, I felt the same way when I was backpacking through Europe in my early 20s. I was in Paris during the French presidential elections. Since I was on a budget, I stayed at a youth hostel, mingling with travelers from all over. We just chat about our experiences and perspectives. Back then, my English was really strong and I felt quite confident. We were having a good conversation until, out of the blue, this girl, I think she might have been Indian, not sure if she was an international student or not, she asked, who do you think will win the French presidential election?
Oh.
It was the election season, and honestly, I didn't care.
I mean, why would you? It's another country's politics.
Exactly. I wasn't into politics then, especially not from another another country.
I get that.
But it made me think we need to expand our conversational topics, especially now with more foreigners in Korea. At its core, English is a foreign language for us. We should widen our interests, or we're just stuck asking, "How are you?" "I'm fine," and that's it.
True. Small talk becomes just about the weather or hobbies.
It won't make our bond stronger or expand our chat, will it?
Oh no, it's such a surface level talk. Remember, the core purpose of language is to convey our thoughts. If you don't have any thoughts to share, the communication falls flat. Language is just a tool, so don't just stress over it too much.
So what if I mess up grammar a bit while talking?
That's what I'm saying. Language isn't something you can see. It just flies away, right?
Exactly.
When you chat in English, no one's thinking she missed an S and her verb, or this should have been past tense. They're just talking in the message.
Right. When non-natives speak Korean, we don't judge them, do we?
We need to share that way to move forward.
Absolutely. Everyone's talking about it these days. Many of us are introverts. I discuss this frequently with my students. I totally get introverts. I've been there, but to grow, sometimes you need to put on a brave face. When speaking English, I imagine I'm playing a different character.
That's so true, Leah. Believe it or not, I'm also an introvert. Keep mentioning. My friends find it hard to believe, especially when they see me leading a group. Back in school, even running for class president, I turn all red and barely speak above a whisper. Public speaking was a nightmare. In my classes, I always remind my students the person you see before you has evolved. It might be reserved in personal situations, but when learning English, it's about pushing your boundaries. Like our chat right now, you often have to step outside your comfort zone. I used to practice speaking in front of a mirror at home. Whispering to yourself doesn't cut it. You have to vocalize.
Absolutely. You need to express yourself out loud, even if you make mistakes along the way.
For me, vocalizing what I hear is essential. It's the way I internalize and perfect it.
It's about recognition, right?
Exactly. Even if I stutter on my first attempt, by the 10th, it gets better. That's the power of shadowing. We both practice it by listening to podcasts, and it works wonders. If we can, so can others.
Shadowing captures the essence, the rhythm of English.
And not just rhythm, accent, emphasis, tone, it's all in there.
Right. It's not just about saying, "I'm happy." It's about matching the exact tone and emphasis.
Language is a performance. That's how you learn.
So today was all about our speaking journey. Maybe next time we dive into another skill.
Yeah, like listening or writing.
Yeah, great. That would be a great follow-up.
Sounds like a plan. Till then, take care, everyone.
Catch you all next time.
Goodbye.